Okay, so I'll be the first person to admit that I buy a lot of weird, stupid things, and that's gonna be one of them. That thing right there is one of those weird, stupid things I bought. That is a 2006 Crown Victoria that I bought at a police auction. It used to be a pit and maneuver car, and I'll probably give more details about that car in a minute. But for now, I gotta figure out what this misfire code is on that thing so I can get it past smog and be legal and reliable. Because I gotta do something with it, and that was dumb. So I did buy this thing pretty cheap for like about 1,200 bucks. It is quite beat up, and I'll do a whole little video to a walk around about it in a minute. But after when I brought it home, it drove pretty decently. The only problem is on the way home, I realized it had a couple problems. One was the battery was dead, which is weird, considering the battery seemed to be not that old. And two, it had this like weird, like almost pre-detonation kind of sound. Fast forward a few days, I ended up getting a cylinder 8 misfire. I replaced the coil and the plug, which you can see right here, a brand new Denso coil. And underneath that is a brand new Denso double platinum plug. Misfire still persists, and I haven't done a compression test. I also replaced the mass airflow sensor. So what I'm gonna guess is going on is that the fuel injector is dirty because the car is running super rich now. And it would make sense that just dumping a shit ton of fuel into the cylinder, washing out the plug. When I did pull out the plug, it was covered in fuel. So what I'm going to be doing is replacing the fuel injector. I did buy one off like Rock Auto for like 30 bucks. So let's get this party started. Step one right here is going to be to remove this intake plenum and then the throttle body, which is a big beastie boy. So I'm going to get a flathead screwdriver, pop these two hose clamps off, and then get this guy off right here. Okay, so the intake tube is pretty easy to get off. This little guy is also very easy, but it does require a little finagling. So what you do is you take this back, you push this little green piece back towards the outer point, and then you push down and the thing comes right out. It's a little hard to do with one hand, but like, yeah, it's really hard to do with one hand. So I'll just do it right there and then push down. Just like that. And it should come right off. There, just like that. Okay, so now that the intake plenum is off, the next step is to take off all the electrical connectors that are hooked up to this throttle body right here, along with all the hoses. So there's one connector here, one here, hose here. That guy is not in the best of shape, that hose there. This one here, which is the same as the other one. This vacuum line here. Connector here, EGR pipe right down over there. Coming over to the other side, right over here, you see the EGR pipe down there, along with all these other connectors. Basically, our main goal is to pull this guy off right here. In order to do that, you gotta take everything else off. Also, it looks like someone's already replaced my intake plenum with a dormant part that has the metal crossover tube for the thermostat, so that's a pretty good win. Anyway, I'm gonna start pulling out all these connectors. Make sure you try to remember them or record a video like I'm doing now. That way you can keep a good eye on where everything is. That way nothing gets, like, you know, mixed up. Granted, I don't think you would mix it up. So one thing I noticed on this Ford, there's a lot of rather like tamper-proof connections type thing. So these red pins or red pieces on these connectors that before you can push them off and take it out. So what you have to do is pull it out just like that. Sometimes you have to use your finger or something else. Then push down like a normal clip tab and then pull it out. They have these all over the car, including on the mass airflow sensor and other places. Oddly enough, not on the injectors, coils, or coil pack, and other stuff. But yeah, so here, there's another one here. Take that off, then you can push down and pull it right off. Okay, so now going around the throttle body, I've pretty much gotten everything off except for these small bolts right here and this EGR hose right there. In order to get to that EGR hose, you need to take this bracket off, which includes a 10mm bolt here, as well as a 10mm bolt there. Once this bracket is off, you should be able to easily get to the EGR bolt, and then that should be the last thing that's holding this thing on, because you got every other connector off. So just a heads up, if you want to use the correct wrench for this EGR flange nut, or whatever this is, it's definitely bigger than a 26, which is the biggest wrench I have. So I ended up using a plier and some PB blaster and it came off pretty easily. So now that basically every connector going to this throttle body is disconnected, the next step is going to be to take these 4 bolts that hold it to the intake manifold. They look like they're 8mm. The 2 bolts here that were holding the EGR plate were 10mm. And also, disconnect the battery. I probably didn't mention to do that, but definitely do that. Okay, so I got the throttle body off. You can see there's 4 bolts there in the main section, and there's 1 bolt right over here. And you can also see inside my throttle body is insanely dirty. And it smells a lot like fuel, like just straight raw fuel. You know, keep this guy over here on the van. Now, so I'm only taking this injector off because I'm replacing only injector number 8 right over here. So for my particular instance, I'm just going to take this 15mm bolt right here. Then there's also another 15mm bolt behind this wiring harness, which I'll probably have to pop off with a screwdriver to take this clip off the back of this. But yeah, I'm going to take this 15 off, and then I'm going to remove this fuel rail, because I'm pretty sure this are rubber bendy hose. Okay, yeah, we can go from there. Okay, so you can see that this is the part that goes on top of the motor right over there, and this is the one that's hidden in the back. Now when it comes to the bolts that were in this thing, the bolt I pulled out of here, pretty long boy. This one, normal little bolt, so that's okay. The next step, from what I can tell, is going to be to just pop these 2 bolts. I think the side rail should pop right off. Okay, so the next and final step is to pop out these little connectors. 1 tab pops them out, and there is my suspect injector, injector number 8. What's weird is it's kind of wet in that one, and maybe that one. These are all a little moist. I wonder if that means all of them are bad? Shit, I guess I should have bought 4 injectors. Well, let's see. So, looking at the driver's side injectors, that's pretty much all you have to do to get those out. Coming over to the passenger side, it looks like there's 2 more steps, right? What you're going to need right here is a fuel line quick disconnect tool to disconnect the fuel pressure from, or the fuel from the fuel line. And then you're going to need to pull off this clip right here, which looks like it goes to some kind of fuel pressure regulator sensor or something, or fuel pressure sensor. And then from there, you just need to take these 2 bolts off here, just like I'm doing on the other side. Overall, it's pretty much the same process. It's just 2 more extra steps for the driver's or the passenger side. So what I'm going to be doing is next is going to be to remove these 2 right here, because it looks like this is a relatively flexible line. And I'm going to be replacing this injector right here. Okay, so after pulling off the throttle body, the intake plenum, some other stuff, I'm down to the point where I can pull off this fuel rail and replace this injector. Looking at this injector, it's actually a little moist on the inside. Like, not the good kind of moist, like you can see it's a little wet. This one right here is also a little wet. And these 2 seem to be mostly dry. I think this is just an injector failing with age, to be honest with you. So I'm just gonna pop this out and go from there. Replace that number 8 injector, and then hopefully that should fix my misfire. Okay, so when it comes to taking these injectors out, just gotta pull these guys out right here. If that injector didn't need to be replaced, it definitely needs to be replaced now. I'll say that. I'm just gonna clean out this little area, make sure nothing gets in there, and grab a plier and pull that thing out now. So I got the injector out. I'm guessing that looks bad, and I'm almost sure that's not how it's supposed to look like. So fuck it, new one it is. Hopefully it'll run right now. Okay, so this right here is the OEM injector that I just pulled off, and I'm about 99% sure it's not supposed to look like that. It looks like it's pretty rusted and like clogged up, maybe. Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to this point. But here's the new one. I ended up ordering a Bosch unit off of Rock Auto. If I remember correctly, Bosch makes the OEM injectors for this car. Like, they got similar numbers, like 927, 927. Only difference, this one has a Ford badge on it and a 6W785, and that one does not.
see. But if you look at the main 2815089, it is 028158089. So yeah, let's pop this thing in. And looking at the cap, as far as what the new injector looks like, see, it is quite a bit cleaner. Okay, let's go from there. Okay, so now it's the next day. I ended up going to AutoZone and picking up a set of O-rings because I didn't feel like putting these old O-rings back in there, and they are quite dry. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be removing the O-rings at the base of each injector, lubing them up a bit, and then popping them in along with the new injector that is going to be down over there. Okay, so I'm going to use the old injector as an example since it's already out of the car. All you have to do is slide this O-ring off right here, which is this one, and then lube up the new one with oil, and then put it back on there. So I'm using some spare fresh engine oil I have, and that's it. Then it pops right in. I did end up looking it up online whether to install these O-rings dry or lubed up. Everybody says either use old engine oil or new engine oil or ATF or something, but never to install them in dry because apparently it'll tear the O-rings. But yeah, I think in about an hour this thing should be back together. I'm pretty excited for that, actually. Okay, so I put the injector back in and reassembled everything. That was pretty simple. Just make sure you follow the torque specifications that are going to be printed on the intake manifold. Actually, I'll show them to you right now just to make sure, because I know some people might not have the same intake manifold. I do have an aftermarket Dorman unit. So if you look on right here, it says first stage is 18 inch-pounds, then the second stage is 18 foot-pounds for that big bolt that goes through. I did end up putting everything back together. I did drive the car for about 20-ish miles. In the first 10 to 15 minutes of driving, it had no issues. It drove great. After driving it for a bit more, the misfire did come back. It is still a cylinder 8 misfire. I have it now replaced the spark plug, the ignition coil, and the injector, and I still have that misfire. While driving back, it did turn from a cylinder 8 misfire to a cylinder 4, cylinder 8, and then a random misfire detected. And I did lose the fuel pressure, or the fuel gauge. Now, I did run this car through ForceScan, which I can show you later in a different video, and it basically said everything was fine except for the misfires, and I checked the fuel pressure at the rail, which was sitting at about 40 psi, which is where it's supposed to be sitting. I also checked all my other monitors in terms of the fuel system, and I was only getting error codes coming from the fuel pump itself. Now, that's probably going to be my next step, is to replace the fuel pump and go from there, because I have noticed that I have issues with the fuel pump reading on this car. It'll read every once in a while. It's not the most accurate fuel pump gauge in the world, and who knows, maybe if I fix that, it'll fix the misfire as well, but we'll go from there. Overall, it's pretty easy to replace an injector on this car. It is quite a bit beat up, and it's getting there. Once I replace the fuel pump, I'll post a video of that as well. I'm currently working on my dad's truck, then my truck. I still gotta put the axle on this one, and then it'll be good to go. Anyway, if you want to see way more videos, hopefully with better lighting and me fixing all my shitty cars, let me know. The next one's going to be the CVX on this one, the upper control arms, which are upgraded on the Ford Explorer with the extended ones by BFE or something like that. And then I got to do the lights on the tailgate or the flatbed of that truck, the white one, because they are not compliant with the laws out here apparently. Anyway, have a good one, guys. Do whatever else you do on the internet, and peace out. Oh, subscribe if you want to see more, like if you like the video.